Okay, let's jump right into today's explainer. We are unlocking the hidden cheat codes for getting elite results out of your AI tools. Because let's be honest, if you've been using large language models lately and feeling like the output is, just a little bit average, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're zeroing in on the expert secret behind results. We're going to completely shift how you interact with these tools, turning them from simple chatbots into high-powered analytical supercomputers. You've probably noticed that, 90% of AI-generated content sounds exactly the same, right? It's got that distinct, slightly robotic flavor. And the reason for that comes down to the stark contrast between a generic command and a highly structured framework. I mean, the average user just types something like write an intro about AI and, well, hopes for the best. But an expert user, they use what we call mega prompts. They assign specific roles, feed the model rigorous context, and lay down very strict constraints. It's basically the difference between asking a random stranger to cook you a meal versus handing a Michelin star chef a highly specific recipe, your exact dietary restrictions, and your preferred flavor profiles. And the really crucial point here is this. You aren't getting bad answers because the AI is dumb. You're getting bad answers because you're expecting it to, well, read your mind. These models are incredibly powerful pattern recognition machines, but they're absolutely not telepathic. When your instructions are super brief and lack detail, the model has no choice but to default to the most generic, mathematically average response it can find in its training data. So when your inputs are messy and unengineered, they lead directly to those frustrating, fluffy outputs, and even those wild hallucinations that we're all trying to avoid. The AI is simply grasping at blurry edges, trying to fill in the massive gaps in context you left behind by just guessing what you actually wanted. To fix this, we really need a fundamental paradigm shift in how we approach this tech. We literally have to stop treating the tool like a vending machine. You don't just push a button, insert a coin of generic text, and wait for a snack to drop out. Instead, you need to start commanding it like a high-powered consultant. Think about it. When you hire a consultant, you give them background data, you define the target audience, you set the tone, and you dictate the exact format of the deliverable. That is exactly how you must treat your AI. Which brings us to the core expert secret, prompt engineering. Now, I want to be clear. Prompt engineering is not just about typing more words into a text box. It's the process of designing clear, strategic instructions that perfectly balance context with constraints. You're essentially structuring your prompts logically, almost like you're writing software code. You're building a repeatable framework that ensures the AI understands exactly what you need, producing highly useful, targeted output, while keeping errors to an absolute minimum. So if we actually want to program this supercomputer effectively, what exactly does the anatomy of a perfect prompt look like? Let's break it down. It all comes down to a reference architecture known as the PICO framework. This is a rigorous synthesis of 11 different expert prompting frameworks found in recent research, distilled into 5 essential pillars. First up, persona. Who is the AI acting as? Second, instructions. What exactly do you want it to do? Third, context. What background info does it need to know? Fourth, constraints. What are the rules and boundaries? And fifth, output. What should that final format look like? By filling out these 5 pillars, you're handing the model a completely flawless roadmap. Now, within that PICO framework, the real magic happens when you balance your context with your constraints. For example, one of my absolute favorite constraint hacks is banning specific words. I mean, we all know language models have this frankly annoying obsession with overusing buzzwords like unleash or transform or delve. By explicitly telling the AI to avoid those tired words and commanding it to use, say, a grade 10 readability level, you force the model out of its lazy habits. It actually has to work harder to find better, more specific ways to explain your ideas, which results in vastly more human-sounding text. Okay, so now that we have the structure down, how do the engineers over at OpenAI actually prompt? Let's look at some of their elite cheat codes. Let's start with a highly effective technique called reverse prompting. Honestly, this is just a brilliant meta hack. Instead of sitting there guessing how to describe the exact tone and structure you want, you simply show the model a finished piece of text that you already love. Because AI models are the ultimate pattern recognition machines, they instantly identify the hidden structure, the pacing, the emotional intention, and the formatting of that text without any guesswork on your part whatsoever. To actually use this, you just paste your ideal piece of text into the chat and use this exact phrasing. So take a mental note of this. Ask it, what prompt would generate content exactly like this? The AI will then reverse engineer the text and literally hand you a highly detailed, perfect prompt tailored to that exact style. Then you just take that generated prompt, tweak the topic to fit your needs, and boom, you've instantly replicated an elite writing style. It is hands down the fastest way to go from mediocre to professional. Now, if you're dealing with complex logic, you're going to want to use chain of thought prompting, or COT. Simply adding a phrase like, let's think step by step, forces the model to articulate its entire reasoning path out loud before it gives you the final answer. By breaking the problem down into intermediate reasoning steps, the model becomes far less likely to skip logic or hallucinate a false conclusion. And the sheer measurable impact of this one tiny adjustment is honestly staggering. Research shows that using that single step-by-step phrase improves a large language model's accuracy on mathematical and complex logical reasoning problems by 15 to 25%. That's huge. Just a few words completely alter how the model processes information, dramatically reducing errors. Beyond chain of thought, here are 3 more elite hacks you can start using daily. First, the before you answer constraint. Tell the AI it must ask you clarifying questions before it generates a response. This entirely eliminates the problem of missing context. Second, persona flipping. Ask the AI to argue opposing viewpoints. Have it act as your CFO rejecting a budget, and then act as a VP defending it just to stress test your strategy. And third, the rubber duck prompt. This is named after that famous programming trick where developers explain broken code out loud to a toy rubber duck on their desk. You can use the AI as your digital rubber duck to organize all your messy, half-formed thought into a structured plan, all without having to bother a colleague. Finally, to truly leverage these expert secrets, you can't rely on rewriting these prompts from scratch every single time. You have to scale your productivity. And you do this by turning your successful, highly engineered interactions into a permanent prompt library. So instead of doing one-off queries, ask the AI to generate a reusable template with placeholder fields for your specific recurring tasks. You're essentially building a long-term productivity system. Think about the sheer efficiency of this. As one productivity expert pointed out, imagine building a weekly client report template just once. You define the PICO framework, the tone, and the constraints perfectly. That is true leverage right there. You're taking what used to be 60 minutes of tedious conversation and drafting and distilling it down to under a minute every single week. You just fill in the blanks and let the supercomputer do all the heavy lifting. So the next time you sit down to work and open up your AI tool, I really want you to ask yourself this critical question. Are you treating it like a basic search engine, just hoping it reads your mind? Or are you programming it like the supercomputer it actually is? Remember, the quality of your prompt is the absolute dictator of the quality of your results. Master the prompt, and you master the outcome.